Scavani, a phenomenal ally. And in my neck of the woods, Representative Michelle Goolsbee Rayner was also elected, which I'm thrilled about. And then we have Senator Chevron Jones representing down south. And so those are that, having strong proactive champions for LGBTQ equality is significant, and fighting for equity on all fronts, and attacking sometimes some issues that are just as important as the things that we sort of look at from an equity perspective that are obvious, but we've got to lean in on some other topics too, like reproductive justice, and gun violence, and all the aspects that are really disproportionately impacting our community, and work on that struggle together with our progressive allies.
Exactly, and that's a critical issue. I don't know if I also, as you may or may not know, I'm heavily involved with the Progressive Caucus as well, and that's a key issue that we work with. Some of those issues that we work with, and we need all the allies we can get, and across all the different cultures that make up the Democratic Party. By keeping these alliances together and helping to gain trust with each other, that's how the Democratic Party can grow. Because unlike the other party, we are a much bigger tent, and we cover a much bigger spectrum of the American population. And we have to continue to build these alliances and to move forward and accomplish what we've accomplished right now, which is having control of both the Senate at the federal level, the Senate and the House, and the presidency. So, like I said earlier, and like you mentioned too, we have a unique time span here that we need to do to accomplish things, because and we got to keep trying to represent the real people of the United States who actually care about the future of this country.
Yes, well, absolutely, Sorry, no, go ahead. No, which makes me think about the phenomenal work that was done on the ground in Georgia, and in all kinds of states where you saw phenomenal partnerships across the country help states come to victory that just wouldn't have happened. And a lot of those were through some non-traditional progressive partnerships. Stacey Abrams led the charge in Georgia, but there were a number of other groups in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and out west working with indigenous people and just getting the word out. There was a story I heard last night about how folks within one tribe couldn't get registered to vote because they don't have addresses. And somehow they used geosatellite through Google Maps or something. And I just like this, just being in Florida politics, I was not quite aware of all the different aspects. But this victory could not have happened without the full representation of what the United States of America looks like. And so we have to sort of recognize that and honor that. And so it's no surprise, right? One of those other executive orders signed was President Biden rescinding the Trump administration's 1776 commission, which is just a smack in the face in our fight for racial equity in this country, and just not recognizing our history and the problematic parts of our history that we have to set right. We have to do that together, and our caucus is committed to that, and there has to be intentionality around that, because the representation at the top and in our chapters, in our communities, has to all reflect the beautiful rainbow of what our community looks like. Exactly,
and we have so many people that we can thank for the progress we have made, and we're so fortunate to be actually trying to work together, and we have a lot to do yet, though, and so. Where do you think the future? Where would you like to see the future take us to here, and in the state legislative committee here? As far as if you had an ideal world, let me put it like this: if you had an ideal world, what kind of bills would you like to see put forward in covering what areas? Because we have so many fronts that we need to advance on.
Yeah. Well, we've got to look at the racial inequities and undoing the historical harms that we've done in this country. And then that means also extending in the ways that we have wealth disparity through either home ownership or through employment or through opportunities. And we have to sort of talk about how that affects different communities differently in different parts of our state. I mean, Florida is a complex state, so the landscape politically, it's complicated. And so how I might talk about that in St. Pete or Tampa versus Orlando or Miami or Fort Lauderdale is different. But we also have to have equality. So the Florida Competitive Workforce Act has got to move forward. We need to secure those rights for LGBTQ Floridians. There's a tremendous, my background with criminal justice work. I've been doing a lot of work and talking to a lot of community members that have experienced disparities when picked up at the protest last year, who were trans and non-binary folks, young, and were mistreated by local law enforcement agencies across the state. So doing criminal justice reform at all levels, whether it's just from a jail detainee through, sentencing, through our policies and procedures to ensure, equity in policing, and mental health resources when policing isn't really the adequate or appropriate response. There's layers, but it will happen one day at a time, one step at a time. But it doesn't happen if our elected officials don't hear from us as a community, right? And so collectively, our voice is quite strong, and that's why getting involved in groups that are organized, like the Democratic Caucus, I think become important. So, I want membership in progressive organizations to increase. I want folks to get engaged now, not 3.5 years from now.
Right.
Some of the things we look at is the way we do organizing versus the way Republicans have done organizing, and how they engage with high school and college students, and listen to the voices from the next generation and what their needs are, what their questions are, what's their disconnect, and being involved actively as a voter, right? And so we had much better engagement, much better voter registration, but there's still room to improve. And voting for me is still one of the biggest honors as an American. And I had some time. We did a panel last year, and I talked about this on this panel at one of our state conferences. There was a time I was a little disenchanted and frustrated with my party because I didn't feel represented. There was no one like me as a transgender American that was even involved in or participating in politics. There wasn't someone like me whose voice was being heard, and I didn't feel welcome. And that took time and energy and effort and intentionality. And we have to do that. And if we're not creating the partnerships that we should be, we have to also talk about that. And those are some tough conversations, acknowledging mistakes, but all opportunity. And I've seen some really exciting folks coming up through the ranks that are interested in getting engaged, that are outspoken, that are doing phenomenal work across the state, and I am so grateful for them. I think Florida politics are going to get just all shook up in the next few years, and you're going to see some tremendous progress.
I agree with you there, certainly. And I want to go back to one of your other points there that you mentioned. And one of the key areas, I'm going to give you, and what you said, it confers just what we already know here. When the D&I group formed here, D&I Suncoast, which I'm on the advisory board for, it's all young people. D&I they're all people under 40, and the advisory board is composed of people over 40, basically. But the D&I, one of the things that helped us in recruitment was to get them to understand, to get them involved in politics, was wealth disparity. When we show them the math, we show them the reality of what goes on, and how these poor people, these young people, and sometimes they don't even stop to think about, when they're paying 40 or 50 or 60% of their income just for rent, how in the hell can they even live any kind of life at all? It's disgusting. It is. Right. And it's done. Right. It's done by, there's nothing wrong for making profits, but when you do it on the backs of the bottom 60 or 70% of the income brackets, that's disgusting. It really is. It's not justice at all. and having to deal with this. And this is what led to our formation. And, of course, one of our main focuses is housing. That's one of the main focuses of the group, and education, those two areas.
Right.
And that's how we brought the group together. And we want to keep working on this as well as moving forward. Listen, we're going to run out of time here. I've only got about 2 minutes left, so I want to give you the final words, and I want you to tell us what some of your final thoughts are here, and wrap this up in about a minute, if we could, okay?
No, I can do that. And I want to just reflect on what you said with a couple of things and then wrap it up. I think what you're alluding to there and how we work about those issues is first acknowledging the whitewashing of history. The income disparities didn't just happen because of recent economic policy decisions. It's around intergenerational issues, intergenerational wealth not being able to be created, home ownership not being a possibility. We have to learn, we have to educate ourselves, we have to come to an understanding about why we are working on the systematic changes we need to work on. Why is doing the work collectively as a group for equity in an anti-racist way so important to this country. And that's one of the hardest conversations happening in this country right now. Get involved.
Thank you.
Ask questions. That's what I would say. Get involved, ask questions.
Great, Nathan. It's been so good having you with us here again today. We've got to wrap up. We're out of time. And
yes.
Thanks again, okay? Okay.
Always a pleasure. Be well.
Okay, thank you for listening, and hope you have enjoyed today's discussions. This has been Coastal Progressive and Rainbow Forum on Society Bites Radio, and I've been your host, Steve Ryan.